In the sweltering heat of a Spanish summer, the air was thick with an acrid stench that lingered like a malevolent spirit. It was not the scent of war, nor the aftermath of battle, but the grim odor of purification, a word the church used to mask the horror of execution. The year was 1482, and the town square of Seville lay under the relentless gaze of the sun, the cobblestones hot enough to scorch bare feet. A crowd had gathered, their faces a tapestry of anxiety and despair, mothers clutching their children as if their embrace could shield them from the unfolding cruelty. Fathers shifted uncomfortably, sweat trickling down their backs, their eyes averted from the iron post at the center of the square, blackened and scarred from countless burnings. As the cathedral bells tolled mournfully, signaling a grim procession, a young man stood shackled to that post, his frame gaunt and desperate. He was perhaps 19, his wide eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and defiance. His lips were cracked, parched from the unforgiving sun, yet he made no pleas for mercy. Instead, he whispered fervently, repeating a litany of faith. "I am a Christian. I swear it. I was born baptized." An inquisitor, draped in flowing crimson robes that billowed like a bloodied banner, raised a hand high, and in that dreadful silence, a torch was lowered into the hay that surrounded the base of the post. Flames erupted like the wrath of a vengeful god, engulfing the boy in a fiery embrace. His screams, though piercing, were extinguished swiftly. The crowd stood immobile, eyes transfixed. They had witnessed horrors before, had dulled their senses to the gruesome reality of their world. But not long ago, Spain had been a different place, a land where cultures thrived side by side, where Muslims, Jews, and Christians coexisted, each faith a thread in the vibrant tapestry of society. It was a time marked by tolerance and understanding, a stark contrast to the present day, where the air crackled with fear and suspicion. The birth of a machine of fear began not from madness, but from the cold calculations of politics. Sharpened by fear and twisted by the fervor of faith. In 1478, as the Catholic monarchs, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, sought religious unity, the country trembled under the weight of their ambition. If the people pray to different gods, they will never obey one crown. Yet executing non-Christians outright would only draw the ire of the Pope. Instead, they devised a strategy, a loophole that would transform dissent into a weapon. They would convert, accuse, torture, and ultimately burn. This was not justice. It was a calculated maneuver that would yield the most efficient killing machine Europe had ever seen. The first tribunal of 1481 marked the dawn of this grim era. 6 conversos, Jews who had sought refuge in Christianity, were accused of continuing their old practices, lighting candles on Friday evenings, whispering prayers in Hebrew, and refusing to eat pork. Bound to a ladder-shaped rack, their bodies became instruments of pain. Each crack of bone echoed like thunder in a storm, while hooded monks recorded their responses in ink, their prayers a haunting backdrop to the suffering. "Do you confess?" "I do not. I am Christian. Please." Crack. "Do you confess?" "Mercy." Yet once their confessions were inked and sealed, there was no release. They were burned, not for their guilt, but to serve as a stark reminder to the living. Disobedience would not be tolerated. As the days passed, a name emerged from the shadows of this grim theater: Tomás de Torquemada. He was a Dominican friar whose vision transformed the Inquisition from a mere religious oversight into an engine of terror. To him, heresy was a disease, and only fire could cleanse the soul. He forged new rules, demanding every citizen report heresy, even against their spouses. The air grew thick with whispers of betrayal and fear. In cities like Toledo and Cordoba, children were taught to spy on their parents, neighbors ceased to greet one another, and priests were recompensed for reporting entire villages. A woman was burned for washing her sheets on Friday. A boy was tortured for calling Jesus a prophet instead of Messiah. A man was chained for eating chickpeas, considered a Jewish dish. With each passing day, the rules morphed into a labyrinth of paranoia. Breaking them brought pain, confession, and fire. The story of Spain transformed into a dark fable of fear, a relentless echo of what once was, as the flames danced in the hearts of those who dared to believe in a different tomorrow. In the stifling darkness beneath the Grand Toledo Cathedral, the air was thick with the metallic scent of blood and the echoes of muffled cries. The stone walls, worn by centuries of secrets, bore witness to a chilling ritual, a test of faith twisted into something grotesque. Brother Manuel stood resolutely, his fingers gripping the iron crank as he prepared to enact the strappado. With each turn, the tension in his heart grew heavier, yet he believed, with a fervor that bordered on madness, that he was saving a soul from eternal damnation. Maria de la Cruz, a widow of 42 years, hung suspended in agony, her once respected presence transformed into a figure of horror. Wisps of her white hair clung to her face, matted with blood, a stark contrast against her stillness. "Please," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "I only said a prayer." The whisper of her fading strength cut deeper than the iron chains that bound her. But Brother Manuel did not stop. He had taken a vow, convinced that her transgression warranted such punishment. He had not always been this way. Once he had felt compassion for the suffering, yet the relentless tide of the Inquisition had stripped him of empathy, transforming him into an instrument of fear. His heart, once a vessel of love, now pulsed with the conviction that purification could only be achieved through pain. And therein lay the conflict, a man lost in the depths of his own righteousness, battling the remnants of his humanity. The Inquisition loomed over Toledo like a dark cloud, spreading its tendrils into every corner of society. Fear became the currency of trust. A husband might accuse his wife, a child might turn on a parent. In this grim atmosphere, a mere whisper could incite a storm. In Cordoba, in Granada, in Madrid, the tales of betrayal wove through the streets, each story more harrowing than the last, sealing the fates of the innocent among the guilty. The rules were a haunting riddle, and the only escape was silence. Among the many caught in this web was a young man named Rodrigo, who betrayed his own brother Mateo, lured by greed. Under torture, Mateo confessed to harboring a Torah scroll, although it was a lie born from desperation and betrayal. In the end, both brothers perished, consumed by the very system that claimed to protect them. The confession was everything, a tragic irony that echoed through the hearts of those who dared to witness. By 1492, Spain had become a graveyard of secrets, where the cries of the tortured faded into the shadows of despair. Each confession meticulously recorded by priests who, despite the weight of their quills, struggled with their own demons. Some wept silently, while others, blinded by zeal, clung to the notion of salvation through suffering. Yet no one could deny the chilling declaration of Torquemada. If one soul is saved from eternal damnation, then 10,000 deaths are worth it. His conviction was a dark chorus that resonated in the hearts of many, propelling them into further depths of despair. On June 15, 1495, the largest auto de fe in Spanish history unfolded in Valladolid. The arena was transformed into a theater of horror, grandstands filled with eager spectators, their anticipation palpable. The king and queen, adorned in velvet, watched with an unsettling mix of pride and indifference as 32 prisoners, clad in yellow tunics marked with red flames, were paraded before them. Each confession had been wrung from them through unspeakable cruelty. Each was deemed forgiven, yet condemned. With fervor, the bishop delivered his sermon, proclaiming, "Their souls are clean, their bodies are corrupt." The crowd erupted in cheers, a cacophony of approval mingled with the anguished cries of innocence. As the flames danced up to meet the sky, the cheers only grew louder, drowning out the last echoes of their humanity. Despite his fervent devotion, Torquemada found himself enveloped in hatred, even from those he sought to protect. By 1498, his demise came abruptly, shrouded in whispers of poison, not by a heretic, but perhaps by the very church he served. The body was buried in secrecy, his tomb defaced, a lasting testament to the irony of his legacy, cursed by the faith he swore to uphold. Yet, the specter of his work lingered, a haunting reminder that in the pursuit of righteousness, humanity had become the true casualty of faith. Once upon a time in Madrid, Spain, during the year 1503, a sinister prophecy unfolded, whispered by the lips of the fearful. It was raining blood, or so the people said, as they huddled in the damp shadows of La Plaza Mayor. The sky above blazed a purging red, the remnants of a dying summer mingling with the chilling mist that enveloped the cobblestones. In the heart of the capital, 7 wooden stakes loomed ominously, each entwined with a prisoner, their bodies mere rags, marked with symbols of flame, their feet, charred black from pre-burning rituals, told tales of agony that echoed through the silent streets. The Inquisition had named this harrowing spectacle the Great Cleansing, a macabre declaration that Spain must be washed clean of its last sins. But in truth, the land was draped in silence, a suffocating hush that blanketed the once vibrant culture. No songs lingered in the air, no late-night dinners erupted in laughter. Weddings had become hushed affairs, overseen solely by priests who held the power of life and death in their hands. The people had learned a painful lesson: words could burn you alive. In some villages, entire populations vanished overnight, whisked away by hooded riders, leaving behind only echoes of their lives. The Inquisition's chambers had become interwoven with the very fabric of society, hidden beneath churches, nestled within castles, and concealed in the recesses of monasteries. Torture had become so routine that some monks, in a twisted display of normalcy, penned their horrific methods in cookbook format, detailing gruesome recipes that began with tying the heretic. In this atmosphere of dread, the Spanish Empire birthed unimaginable tools of torment, each designed to break the body while preserving the soul just long enough to elicit a confession. The rack stretched limbs until bones popped from their sockets. The heretic's fork pried open mouths for days. The pear of anguish bloomed grotesquely inside its victims, and the Iron Virgin, a coffin lined with spikes, offered a cruel promise of slow death. Each device was ceremonially blessed, as priests murmured prayers over writhing bodies, forging a disturbing sanctity in the face of suffering. Yet amid this darkness, shadows watched and recorded the horrors. The Inquisition, it seemed, never truly ended. Though the Spanish crown abolished it in 1834, its agents slipped underground, their methodologies woven into the fabric of oppressive regimes, reaching far beyond Spain's borders to Portugal, Italy, and even South America. The grim efficiency of the Inquisition found resonance in the grim hearts of later totalitarian regimes. As Heinrich Himmler admired its brutal legacy, instructing that translated manuals be spread among the SS, creating an echo of an Inquisition reborn. In the midst of this turmoil stood Cayetano Ripoll, a humble school teacher in Valencia, whose rebellion lay in the simple act of teaching. He dared to believe in reason over religion, instilling in his students the notion that God was love, not fire. For this he was condemned, and his last words before the noose were haunting. If your God needs blood to prove he exists, then he is not my God. The Church, fearing the honor the people might bestow upon him as a martyr, ordered his body to be incinerated in secret, but the ember of his courage sparked a flicker of hope within the hearts of those who dared to remember. Fast forward through the echoes of time, and remnants of the Inquisition still haunt the landscape of Spain. In the present day, the old chambers stand, some as grotesque tourist attractions, others sealed shut, ere horrors too profound to confront. If one were to wander the back alleys of Seville, Toledo, or Valladolid, the lingering scent of blood trapped in wood, the blackened stone posts and iron rings might tell you that the Inquisition did not die. It merely absorbed itself into the essence of society, its message lingering. To control the world, You only need to make people afraid of what's in their own heads. And thus the legacy of fear continued to shape lives, not just in Spain, but around the world, resonating like a haunting refrain in the hearts of those who dared to remember.